What's going on, Badger fans? They got another commit as this secondary continues to get revamped. Let's talk about it on Locked On Badgers. Happy Saturday, y'all. Happy playoff Saturday, y'all. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Happy Saturday. Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. We did get another commit in the door, so we're here to talk about it. As always, we kind of just break down the commits when they come in a little bit. That means we got to play that cannon. Let's start off here. And you can see the scroll on the bottom. It is Jameer Scott jumping into the program in the 2025 class.
Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
All right, let's get the particulars out of the way.
The recruiting
cannons. I cannot.
Yes.
It lose by default. I have to literally turn it off, and I never remember. All right, Jameer.
This is awesome.
This is awesome.
Get up on that line.
Get up on that line, the phone line. Get up on that line. All right, so Jameer Scott is the guy who commits. 2025 commit coming out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Obviously, when Luke Fickell came on board, we talked about the potential pipeline into Ohio and some of the connections they're going to have there. He is a four-star composite, 6'1", 180-ish pounds. Reported offers from Michigan, Tennessee, Purdue, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, among others. So a strong early offer list, Midwestern safety / cornerback. I know Justin and I are going to talk about some of the positional versatility here. We got film on him. I'll just start off with a few of the things I like. I'll kick it over to Justin, and then we'll put the film up and just kind of talk about the fit and compare it to some of the other guys that they've brought in. I love the physicality. He's very, very physical. To me, he has some of the same physicality that like Haddad has. Bringing in guys who can hit, who drive on the ball, who run through ball carriers, who are very, very physical, big, that fit a certain prototype. I like how he drives on the ball. So there's definitely things on film here to like. Justin, what were your thoughts? And then we'll put up the film and we'll kind of talk through that.
Yeah, watching his film, the things that stood out, I mean, he's used a lot in the slot, and you and I have discussed that a little bit in terms of what we thought was the best position for him. I think he kind of is a guy that I look at and I see nickel safety. He's a guy who I think can play in the slot and the nickel. I think he'd line up really well over a tight end, to be honest. He's got good length. He's not afraid to be physical. He really drives on the ball well. So he comes forward really well. The film that you see on him, I don't see him flipping his hips a lot and going deep, which is why I don't necessarily look at him as an outside corner prospect, because there's just not a lot of film on him doing that. And not everyone's great at that. So he offers a ton in terms of playing between the hashes as a guy that I think can do a lot. And you have options with him. I think he could play some center field a little bit. I don't know if you necessarily want him in that role as much, because dropping back, I'm not sure necessarily is his biggest strength, but he's a guy you can develop. The physical tools are there. Yeah,
he's a guy, and let's put a film now while we kind of talk about this. So watch the film. We'll continue talking about it. One of the first things I noticed, and this is something Justin just talked about, something I talked about, is a lot of film in the slot, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's kind of, to me, when I see that from a high school prospect, my first thought is it because he can't play boundary? I mean, I'm not trying to be a negative, pessimistic guy. That's kind of my first thought, but slot is really important. And if you can line up a guy in a slot who, like Justin said, can take away that tight end that slots out there, or who can come in and blow up screens, he has the physicality to come in and kind of shut down that short passing game. Very, very, you see the run support right there. He just slams a guy down. Very, very physical, exciting prospect. I think he looks like a 4.5-ish guy. If you're just watching film, that's the type of speed he looks like. He looks like he's fast enough, but probably not a burner.
Yeah.
But really big physical frame. And again, Justin, you talked about this. They've recruited a bunch of different types of bodies. I think there's versatility all across the secondary, from last year's recruiting class to this year's class to next year's class. Big bodies, tall bodies, long frames, even back to Amari Snowden, then Lucas, then Agard, and these guys, Remington Moss. I just love the weapons they've built into that secondary.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway I've said since they've started to rebuild the secondary is simply this. Adding one guy helps. Adding 4 or 5 guys that are athletic and can really run closes windows. Like it makes it so much harder on an offense when the quarterback drops back and you have guys that are a step or two quicker than the guys you previously had there. And now he's hitching in his throwing motion. He's holding onto the ball longer than he wants to. And that can lead to turnovers because he's going to try beating, like making a anticipation throw that's not necessarily there. It can lead to guys getting sacked because they hitch the ball and don't let go of it when they should be in timing. And that's a big deal. Like Wisconsin can use all the help it can get right now in its pass rush. And if you have guys that can close windows, that's going to make a huge difference in terms of being able to give your guys an extra half beat to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, 100%. And when you watch the film, special teams clips at receiver, I love guys who play all three facets. That just shows a bit of a give a crap factor. I almost said a word I shouldn't say, but I like
coming here.
Yeah, huge hit here. Like again, the physical. We've had issues with the ability to tackle in space against the elite positional players. Guys like this help clean those issues up. I mean, he is going to tackle physically. He's going to match up, and to me, he's probably like you said, a big kind of slot corner or a safety, and you need those. I think this is a really good pickup, and it's an early get in the class, which means it's something that they really like.
Yeah, anytime you're grabbing guys, and I was looking at their commit list earlier today, and I'm like, I can make looking at this, I can make an argument for virtually everybody being bumped to a 4-star at some point. There's a guy here or there that I look at that I'm like, maybe not. It's not quite there. But almost everybody I can see rising. And that to me is a big deal. Because like from a physical tools standpoint, the guys that they're bringing in right now are incredible. Like the floor that they're bringing in physically has really jumped. And we're seeing them be able to lock down guys like this early. Like we're getting plan A guys. People need to really understand that's a huge difference. Like we're not even getting to June. We're locking down. We've locked down two massive pieces to our secondary already.
3.
And three. Yeah, 3. And all of them have extremely impressive physical tools. Yeah. And all of them can really run. They're all physical. They're guys that I think that you can project them to put on good weight. And, worst case, you have 3 big body safeties. Best case, you have guys that can play all over the place, potentially as far as even like Remington Moss. Maybe he can play boundary corner. I guess we'll see on that in terms of I'd like to see a little bit more of his film. But you have a lot of options for the secondary right now, and there's a lot of athleticism that's getting shoved into that room.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? All 3 of these guys have because every DB you bring in, you want if they can play corner, they play corner because it's just harder to find corners. It's like very much in baseball. If a pitcher can be a starter, you leave him at starter, and then the fallback is reliever. And it's not that safety isn't important, but out of these 3, Haddad, I always want to say Haddad. It's Haddad, right?
Yeah.
Out of Haddad, Moss, and Scott, who do you think is likeliest to stick at corner? To me, it's Scott out of that group, but I'm curious where you're at.
Yeah, I would probably tend to agree with that based off of the film I've seen. I think he's a guy you're going to probably, if they don't like him yet on the outside, that's going to be an area they're going to have to develop him. There's not enough film on him in that role for me to say, whether he's capable of it or not. And I don't know who else is on his team. Honestly, I'd have to deeper dive to see if he's got somebody who's an absolute stud on the outside, and that's why he's playing slot. But of that group, I think that his skill set fits it the best. I like Haddad, quite honestly, as a jack of all trades. Just let him be out there and kind of close windows. Like I think he's the fastest of the 3, and I think he's the guy that you want out there because I think he's a guy that's going to kind of flash in a quarterback's eyes and mess with them a little bit. He's so direct in the way he moves on the field.
Alex says, I've been watching over 100 episodes. First time commenting. Love the show. Alex, thank you, my friend. Thank you for watching over 100 episodes. And then thank you for commenting. I really appreciate you. Part of it is honestly, people really want to have those conversations, Justin, and I like them too. Like I have those conversations too. Like we have those conversations all the time on and off the air. Like where does this guy project? What's he going to look like? But part of it is just get the guys with tools, and in 2 years, it'll work itself out, right? And these players that we're getting, we've talked about this on a couple of occasions, but like the Remington Mosses, I love his physical tools. It's just such a jump. You'd think back to the DBs we were getting 3-4 years ago, and none of them looked like this. Now we're getting 2 or 3 per cycle. And I should say none of them because there were a couple, but like not many.
I mean, we go back to the early 2000s and some of the guys that were getting like that around that 2010 range. Like, what was it? Hugs. Who was the
Eats hugs ETNA.
Yeah. Like we were getting guys that were like 5'8", 5'9", 170, 160 pounds.
Like none of those guys, and some of those are really good players, like Devin Smith types, Marcus Cromartie's, like, but the physical skill set that we recruiting recently is better. It just is. Now, they still need to develop, they still need to build the tool set to do it. A lot of those players that we brought in were more technically sound out of high school. I think they were a little safer.
Yeah.
But the upside wasn't there.
Yeah. And for me, and I think you agree with me, I'll take the athletic upside all the time and hope that I can get them to click, because if they do, you're looking at an NFL draft pick. And if the athleticism is really there, you're looking at a guy who might be top 3 rounds.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing, and this was brought up at the beginning, Brad said, great get after Hitchler leaving, keep it moving forward. It's a defensive back. It's nice to see recruiting momentum continue. Even if Hitch wasn't the primary guy here, I'm sure that he had contact, with Scott. So it's nice to see that momentum continue on there.
I think, was he the primary? I think he actually might have been on this one.
I would have thought so. I didn't look. Honestly, I should have looked before the show. But to your point, it's something you've said. Like, obviously, recruiting takes a group effort. And Max and Pat are still there, and Haynes is still there, and Tressel's going to stay in contact. So it's nice to see a win right after Hitch leaving.
Yeah, the way I look at it with recruiting, and I think people get lost on this a little bit, primary recruiter doesn't matter. He establishes the relationship. But the issue with this is that kids are not going to leave a school based off their primary recruiter moving on. They're going to leave based off their positional coach or the head coach, because the positional coach is the guy they're spending all their time with, and the head coach is the guy that they most likely came to play for in the first place, because they believed in whatever they felt what that coach's mission is, something that they believed in. And that is something that we may have to look forward and see if there's some guys who, Hitchler is potentially going to be their positional coach. But I've had people say something to me about, is so-and-so going to leave now that Hitchler left? And I'm like, well, Hitchler got him in the door. But when we look at, I think somebody said something about Emilio Agard to me. I'm like, well, he's not his positional coach. Yeah. Why would he leave?
Well, he can't leave anyway. He's signed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But he has the opportunity to transfer out if he wanted to. But the way I look at it is Paul Haynes is his coach. Like, he's coming here to play for Paul Haynes and for Fickell and for Tressel. He probably likes the fact that Hitchler was here. That's a guy that he had a good relationship with, but he's not going to be spending his time with that guy unless they have meetings together with the safeties.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Alien Space says a Moss Hayer Scott DB class would be legit. Yeah, that'd be really good. Especially when you throw Haddad in there too. That foursome would be really good. Now you do need a corner now, right? Like, you brought in 3 guys that are maybe safety / cornerback, more safety guys. You need another boundary corner in this class. That could be Hayer. I'm really high on Hayer. But
they get him. You legitimately, I will make the argument that all of them could end up 4 stars. I think they all have that kind of upside to them.
Well, listen, Hayer already is. God is a composite.
God is a composite. Yep. Moss should be.
Moss should be, and Haddad is an 88 on 247. Like, so
I think based off physical tools that I actually like the instincts best out of that group on Haddad. I actually think that he just takes such good angles when he's coming downhill, and he's got the physical tools to back it up, that even if he is a little off with his angles, you're not going to outrun him.
Let's see. Michael says, did Ryan even go to Wisconsin? Why is it affiliation with the school? Just became a fan 12 years ago? Listen, if I was just going to pick a random school, it wouldn't be Wisconsin. I grew up in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not a bandwagon school.
Yeah.
Couple more questions here. Slim Lewis said a deep DB room means you can rotate more and keep them fresh. I agree. Brandon Noble says, but this can't be, Ryan. You told me yesterday that with Hitchler gone, we won't be able to get anyone. Yeah, I never said that. So I don't. I am never said that.
And you're not wrong. Hitchler's a really good recruiter. You have to, Wisconsin, the issue with that is with Hitchler leaving is you have to get somebody who is a capable recruiter following him. You can't just be like, anybody will do in this spot. Mm-hmm. You have to find somebody who's capable of kind of filling that void, even if they're not quite up to what he is. If he's an elite guy, it's finding somebody who's at least a very good guy to kind of fill the role.
And part of the thing I said too, this is either in Discord or the show, I think you take a hit with Hitchler leaving almost certainly, no matter who you bring in from a recruiting standpoint. Yeah. Like, you could bring in a better coach in Hitch. But I also think Guyton's going to be a better recruiter than Brown. And I think Block could be a better recruiter than Bicknell. So, if you get better in other areas, like it doesn't. I guess what I'm saying is it never stays static. Like things are always changing a little bit.
And even if you bring in somebody who's a good recruiter, it doesn't mean they're going to be a good recruiter in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
you know, that's where Hitchler had his connections. That could be tough, but that's something you're going to have to work out after this cycle, because they've identified their targets. Whoever comes in at this spot now is going to try and have to be somebody who's personable, who's capable of connecting and reestablishing those connections as a primary recruiter. And then going forward, you're going to probably try to identify the next cycle where he fits best for his particular recruiting area. And that's what's happening with all these coaches coming in now. Guyton, his connections are to Texas. He's probably going to be a guy you're going to throw into Texas and be like, all right, who do you know that's down there that you feel really good about? Somebody like Farrakhan as a wide receiver is probably somebody you're going to target because he has those connections to go in there and be like, hey, I know this area.
Yeah, we got a couple connections there for sure. And I can't wait for that possible recruiting pipeline to start to kick in. Like him and Spalding could be in a year or two considered the best recruiters in this staff.
Oh, very, very much so. And it's nice to have them at skill position guys.
Agreed. And yeah, Spalding, his first year landed Dupree, Jones, and like that. That's a great class. So he can be. Now the thing is, what you want with recruiters, like the great recruiters, though, is now can you branch into other positions? That's the one thing Hitch did. Like Hitch was the lead on A1.
And he was excellent at all the positions that he run.
The great recruiters recruit across the board, not just their position. Danable 1965 says, "Go Beavers, the Island City. Let's go. The best small town in Wisconsin." I've repeatedly said that. I get this question all the time, so I'm going to answer it once. I don't tend to try to move it too far off the Badgers because it's a Badger show. Why are you a Niners fan? Bo said it's because I was dropped into a sewer tank as a child. Dom said, why a Niners fan? That's treasonable.
The Toxic Avenger.
So my mom, I don't actually know the full story of this. My mom said I had when I was very young, I had a babysitter who was a Niners fan. And apparently she was probably good looking, and that was it. That's the genesis of the story. That's what my mom told me. I have nothing else for you. I'm sorry. That's why I'm a Niners fan.
Well, thank God I didn't have a Bears.
Right. Like it could have been like a Lions babysitter fan. Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That's why I'm a Niners fan. So let's see. Let's get one more in here. Brandon is always takes, so he gets a little critical with me. He said, you acted like Hitchler is Saban. Never did that. Complete joke of a show yesterday. Okay. Did you even know his name before this year? No. See, that's such a silly argument. Did you even know Hitchler's name before this year? No, but I knew his name a year after when he landed 7 recruits. It's like saying, did anybody really know who Jonathan Taylor was before his freshman year? No. Did you know he was after his freshman year? Yes. Like a year can make a big difference. And I never acted like he's Saban. I said Fickell will get a good replacement. I said literally in a tweet, no coach is irreplaceable, but you still have to replace really good coaches, and that's not easy. There's nuance here.
So as somebody who started kind of doing evals on this, I want people to understand how big of a group of recruits that we're sifting through. Haddad completely caught me off guard. I had not looked at his film, and we reeled him in, and I'm like, who is this? I had to go take a look at him to kind of did, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. There are probably 200 offers out right now across the board. The number is substantial. So being able to stay on top of all these guys, watch film on all these guys, and kind of get an idea who everyone is. And it's kind of the same thing with college coaches. Until Fickell comes here, we have no concept of who most of these guys are. Some people might have known Paul Haynes before just because of his affiliation with Minnesota and our hatred for them. But other than that, I'm not sure how many of the coaches that he brought in that we would have been sitting there and be like, oh, yeah, of course I know who that is. We knew who Fickell was.
No, I agree. Like, there's so many, to your point, there's so many coaches and recruits to act like you should have an opinion of every single one before they get here and know them all. It's impossible. Like, but you change your opinion after watching them for a year, right? Like that's the whole point of growing and learning and seeing things. If you learn and you realize, oh, that guy's really good at what he does. And by the way, it's not like I'm the one sitting here saying he's really good. Alabama hired him.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no kidding.
Like, yeah, he's really good. If Alabama's going to go and pluck him away from somebody, that's a really good coach. I'm not the one telling you that. Alabama's the one telling you that. So I think Luke Fickell, and we've already said this, yes, he's going to get a really good replacement because Luke Fickell is a really good coach.
And he has high standards. The expectation is going to be this person's going to recruit because everyone that he hires has to be a recruiter.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on Scott? I think, let me pull this. We watched through the film a couple times, so let me kind of take that back off. We'll come back to just the two of us here. I just go back to the idea of it's very much, and I use a lot of baseball analogies. I'm a baseball guy, but I think recruiting is in some ways like the minor leagues to some degree. I think it's just stockpiling tools, right? Baseball is all about tools. You stockpile tools, you stockpile high level tools, and a couple of them are going to hit. Mm-hmm. And that's all that matters. And what they're doing now, to me, it's almost like they're recruiting redundancy. Not all three of these guys are going to hit, but all three of them can play physical football in the secondary, and one or two of them are going to hit.
Yeah, to me, my goal on this is always get the best athletes you can and let the rest of it play out, because I think it's really hard to look at a kid and what he's done in high school and say that's who he is as a player. They're so early. Like, this is where defensive line is so difficult to tell, because most of these guys have just started getting into their body. We don't know what they're going to be in 4 years after a strength and conditioning program and working on all this stuff. It's like, and you and I were talking about a couple of guys offline a little bit earlier for defensive line and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't necessarily love a couple of these guys' film, but I don't know how to project them. Like, for all I know, this guy's had a growth spurt in the last year and a half, and now he's just kind of growing into his body athletically and trying to figure out who he is. And the coordination will follow in the next couple of years here. So it's really hard to look at these guys and say, that's who he is. And this is why we see so many guys go from a small group of 5 school and end up being an NFL guy, because they maybe took another year to mature. They were still growing into things, and you could kind of see some things because the body was there, but maybe he wasn't super coordinated yet. Well, 2 years in now he suddenly is, because he kindly filled out the strength and athleticism followed along with the size. And now he's a dude. And JJ, somebody said JJ Watt in the chat. That's a prime example of it. I'm sure JJ was not what he became by the time he did. And same thing with TJ. TJ was a guy who was a tight end prospect coming in that, he was probably a Power 5 tight end recruit, but he was not what he became by the time he was a junior here and turned into an absolute monster off the edge. The motor was probably there, but the physical tools probably took a little bit for him to grow into his body. And a lot of that can be simply just adding the strength. Like, you can see guys trying to do things, but it doesn't necessarily show on the film because they're not capable quite yet of being strong enough to actually do what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And that's why college football recruiting is so much fun, right? I mean, fun and heartbreaking equally, but because you don't know what these guys are going to become. But that's why and even Watt, right? Like, even the physical tools weren't there. You look at him, does he have a carrying frame? Yeah. That's worth taking a risk on. All right, let's wrap up there. I told Justin we'll just do a quick one, and I was thinking like 8 minutes. I didn't even do ad reads on this one because I thought we would just do the film and bump out, and then people start taking pot shots at me.
Hey, throw one in now.
Dude, I can take it. No, I can't do it at the end because
you have a passionate fan base. They'll listen to the
I don't know about that. We have a great fan base, so there's no doubt. Not we, the Badgers, not this show. This show does as well. I hate to call anybody that listens to the show a fan. Like,
how dare you?
We are a community together. We're all together in this, and the Badger fan base is awesome. A couple of good comments in here about Chris Borland on the Niners. Yeah, Borland was incredible. All right. Let's wrap it up there. Obviously, guys, I hope everybody that you're watching the game tonight, you have a hell of a time. Everyone knows where Justin's allegiances lie and my allegiances, but I hope it's a hell of a time for everybody. I think it's going to be a good game. There's
a lot of talking heads talking blowout for this one. Does that make you a little uncomfortable?
No, because I understand what they're saying. Like, I've said it, there's a scenario the 49ers do blow them out because
there is.
Listen, the thing is, if Green Bay wins tonight, that is incredibly impressive.
To
go on the road to Dallas and then head back to Green Bay and then have to go on the road again to San Francisco. Hat tip off to them because, like, that's a grueling stretch.
Yeah. My thing is, and they're not wrong. I'm seeing a lot of talk about the Packers defense, which even I look at and I'm like, I don't know what to expect. Like, you have these games where you lock down a team for 3 quarters plus, and then you just play stupid the last quarter. And it's like, I don't know what to make of this. Like, how can you be so good for 3 quarters of this game and then just look like you completely forgot how to play football the last quarter? And that to me is really what comes down to. Packers offense is going to have to carry this one. They're going to have to separate. Yeah. They're going to have to be able to get up a couple of scores so that if the defense does do something stupid at the end of the game, that they can hold on to it.
I think it's going to be high scoring. If the Packers win, they got to score.
Yeah. 100%.
Unless there is supposed to be some rain coming in tonight. I haven't seen how bad it is. Rain can always muck up a game, but the 49ers are going to score. The thing of it is, I think Green Bay can too. So if Green Bay wins, it's got to be their offense scoring upper 20s, low 30s, in my opinion, because I think San Francisco is going to score at least 31. I'm excited for it, though. I think Green Bay is really a really good team. Offensively, I'm scared of them a little bit. They're underrated. Justin, you and I have talked about the weapons there. Love has been on a heater. And we all know, listen, the 49ers have a more talented team.
Yeah.
But in a one-game playoff with a quarterback that's been on a heater, that can go anywhere.
I don't disagree. You and I talked. I told you, I gave you my score on it yesterday, and I said it's probably like 27-21 Niners. They should win the game, but this is one of those games where if things get stupid and Love just plays lights out, it could be a really uncomfortable game for the Niners.
Yeah.
And weird things happen when you get down and you're a team that's supposed to be the more confident team. Suddenly you start pressing and feeling like the expectations are much higher on you. And the Packers they get to play loose in this game. Everyone's expecting them to get blown out. If anything, they may come in with this a massive chip on their shoulder, like, this is BS. We've been playing lights out since week 9 or whatever when Love started taking off. We can hang.
It's
we'll
possible.
See how it goes.
And San Francisco could be rusty. Weather can always be a factor. Listen, there's a lot of great history. I mean, the Packers-Niners have played a ton of great games, and some have gone each way. And I respect the hell out of all Packer fans. Obviously, my fam is Packer fans. If San Francisco wasn't in it, that's who I'm rooting for. So I'm not here to try to I'm a Niner. I don't know what to tell you though. I hope if we beat the brakes off them. I'm sorry. At the same time,
you tried to hold it in, and then suddenly it's just like, nope. The inner fan is coming out.
No Packer fan is hoping they don't beat the brakes off San Francisco either. So,
man, I don't want to see you get dogged. I want you. I mean, it will be more painful if it's close, especially if it's like a last-second touchdown or something.
Yeah.
Neither one of us wants it to come to that. We would much rather have it be like, in some ways, you'd like it to be decisive, just so it's like, all right, I don't want to be sitting here where it's obvious that we were capable of winning that game. You'd like the other team to prove decisively that they're the better team, so you can at least be like, okay, it was what it was. We weren't good enough, and you lost.
Hopefully, it just doesn't come down to a referee's call or anything nonsense.
Yes, no kidding. That would be brutal.
By the way, if you see me shivering, I hadn't started a fire in the barn yet today, so it's like 40 degrees. I'm starting to slowly lose my ability to keep my body from shaking. So
I don't think it's been over 20 degrees in Wisconsin in the last week and a half or 2 weeks. So
are you in a heated room right now, though?
I am. I'm in the house. This is why I'm not wearing a hat.
Let's see. All right, let's roll there, guys. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning into the Jameer Scott episode, which ended up also talking about the 49ers and Packers. But I do hope everyone has a great time tonight.
And the entire Badger secondary.
Yeah, and the entire Badger secondary, which I think we're all excited about. We have much more content coming up, but definitely have a good time tonight. We'll talk Sunday on Wisconsin. Justin.
On Wisconsin.
Looked like you had something else to say.
I did, but I'll let it go.